Hey y'all. Today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using agents to build a to-do list app. I kind of have an idea what I want to build, but we're going to work with Claude to help us get started here. So you'll notice I'm going to use the web UI for this. You can use Gemini or ChatGPT. I'm just have Claude open, and I think for all of those for this exercise, you can use any of those agents. But basically, I want us to build a to-do list app. I want it to be fairly simple because I want to time box this. I don't know if this is going to take 30 minutes or probably an hour, maybe 2 hours. I may have to split this up. But I want us to go through the process because likely if you're watching these videos, you want to make stuff and the artwork stuff, things are cool, but being able to actually build software that does things, my guess is kind of the goal. So this is going to be the first time we're going to build a piece of software. And I know you've probably seen 1,000 to-do list apps. Everyone's got an opinion about them. But now you can try and build your own, and we're going to see how this works. So stick with me here, and we'll get started. So I've got Claude open, and I'm just going to start talking to it out loud because I have a high level idea, basically what I just told y'all, but I don't know exactly what I want to build. So let's get started. I'd like to build a to-do list application. This will be browser-based. This will be using TypeScript. I imagine we'll use local storage for this. I'd like it to include dates. The user should be able to add and delete tasks in this to-do app or to-dos. I'd like this to kind of be visually interesting. I'm thinking monochrome, but with strong typography. What other questions do I need to ask to help us start planning this thing? So I always, at the beginning of these things, try and get it to ask me the questions that we need to answer. If anything, it's just a useful brainstorming function. So let's see. One thing also, like for stuff like this, when I'm using the browser for stuff, we're not actually going to be coding here. The actual output I want from this agent is going to be something like a plan to hand off to an initial plan to hand off to another agent, and you'll see that. But let's see, what kind of dates do we want on tasks? We want due dates. Oh, do we need create dates? I don't know if we actually need create dates. I'm just going to say due dates. Well, there's no harm in having to create date. I don't think it really adds much overhead. So no, we just want a flat list. We're not going to do. We're not going to do. Yeah, we're not going to do tags. So we'll just do a flat list. And I think when you complete them, they just go away. I think that's what we're going to do. This it's just going to be a simple to-do list app. And I am leaning towards, yeah, system preferences. I'm a strong contrast guy, black, white. I know that is now in vogue, but for a long time, I've preferred that visual thing. I know it's not for everyone. When you are after this video, when you kind of start building your own, build a colorful one. I think the app is maybe like clear that has the gradients, like go wild. But me, I like monochrome. I have a very strong neutral instinct. Okay, drag to reorder is a good feature. Oh, do create date. Maybe we have sorting because a lot of these, I'm just going to say drag to reorder right now. Oh, edit. I said editorial and it immediately goes to serif typography. I don't actually want to do that. Ooh, mono is kind of an interesting one. I was thinking big serif typography, but maybe we do mono. Let's see. Or there was another option in there for mono and serif, or mono and sans serif. Maybe that's what we want. Whoa, okay. One of the things I didn't do here is I don't think I told it the outcome. here, and it's just trying to jump into it. I want the outcome of this. Like, it will try and build like an artifact in the browser. That's no good. We can't honestly can't do anything with that. Like, it's an interesting toy, but what we want is a plan to hand off to an agent. I don't want you to build it right now. I want you to figure out what other missing questions we have. And then we're going to create a plan to hand off to another agent to build. So do not actually build this application. Yeah, sometimes you do have to specify. That's actually an advantage to using like plan mode actually in the CLI, so it won't just start building things. Oh, could this? I think this. I was going to say we could use Vite, and I don't know if this needs to be a React project. Let's see if we can make this in a single file. Oh, we probably want inline editing. Overdue task, get any special visual treatment. Okay, yeah, maybe. I don't know what that is. Maybe just like a red dot. Like I imagine like fairly large typography and like borders kind of around them, maybe like full bleed. Um, okay. Okay, yeah, like red for overdue. Oh, swipe left. I imagine mostly, well, if we're going to host this later, maybe hover doesn't really work if you use it on mobile. Swipe is not great on desktop. That's this is actually one of those places where the difference in mobile and where you're using it makes a lot of sense, because at some point in time in the future we're going to build something where we can host all of these cool things we're building. So don't delete them if you like what you're building, because I promise in a future video we'll go through that. What am I doing? I'm going to use my thing. I'd like this to be desktop and mobile, so maybe this is something to talk about in the future. It should be responsive. Responsive just means it adapts to screen sizes. So when you're on your phone, it's it will work both on this screen and on the phone. So responsive. Okay, and it went ahead and made a decision. I do like the like minimal like swiping behavior on the phone. So maybe that's something we'll change when we get to it. I mean, honestly, the great thing about working with agents is you can actually see an option and then decide you don't want to do that, and it's not that big of a deal. Okay, so it's created this for us. Yeah, we don't have user accounts, we don't have categories, we don't have recurring tasks, we don't have notifications, we don't have multi-device support. We're going to try and do single HTML file, task, create date, due date, storage. I almost want to get rid of due date if we allow the drag to reorder. I don't know. Like, maybe one of the things we could do on desktop is I have my hand here, like you can see me, is have like swim lanes maybe for days of the week. That kind of takes away from the minimal aesthetic, but I don't know. Let's get started. Storage, yeah, local storage, that's important. Drag to reorder. It found a library they recommend. Monospace, JetBrains Mono is good. Man, I love IBM Plex for just about everything. It's such a good typeface, but maybe we'll use JetBrains Mono here. Okay, interaction details. Let's just get started. So I'm going to open Warp. ls, where am I? Home directory, cd developer. Remember, that's change directory. Ls list, what's in there. These are all my projects. And I'm going to make a new directory for this, a new project. So mkdir. And this is going to be called to do. And then I'm going to do, oh, maybe should we use Codex? Let's use Codex for this because we haven't used Codex before. So Codex is OpenAI's tool. Yep. Codex is OpenAI's whatever browser or coding agent. Let's see what MCPs we have. I think we have Supabase, Chrome DevTools. That's the main one. Okay. So we're going to be working with Codex here, and I'm just going to tell it. We're going to go into plan mode, shift tabs. The plan's not done. I'm just going to tell this agent, we're going to build this project. This is what this other agent gave me. I'd like us to build a to-do list app. I put together a preliminary plan with another agent. What I'd like to do is both map out a very high-level plan with different phases, and then within each phase, we will plan like phase 1A, build phase 1A, test, live test, iterate on phase 1A. When that's complete, we'll move to phase 1B, we'll plan phase 1B, and so forth and so on. The idea is we want a master plan with high level phases, and we're going to plan each phase when we get there. Ask me any questions you have about this project. What are we not thinking of? What else do we need to consider to get started? All right, that was a lot. And then I'm going to copy and paste that thing we just put in here. And I'm going to work with this agent to try and hopefully it'll probably have a couple of those modals that we saw before. Like I said, Codex works basically the same way as ChatGPT does. We don't have the cute alien guy, but it's a really good CLI tool. We're using GPT 5.5. It's a really good model. It's really good. Like I know everyone talks about Claude, but I honestly at this point in time for the like value that you get for the like $20 a month plan, you can probably build a lot more with Codex with GPT 5.5 than you can with Claude's Opus 4.7. This is kind of a portfolio demo, but I do want it to be emphasized polished. So we're going to look at it as a portfolio demo. Google Fonts is fine. Yeah, Google Fonts is fine. Tight slices, that's basically what I was saying. Phase 1A, phase 1B. We're going to manually test between phases. The idea is like, where are we going for this project? And I think this has kind of a upper ceiling on the difficulty. Of course, I may eat my words later saying that for like what we need to do, but I think we can probably map out 90% of the feature set we're looking for here to build something that's shippable. So let's see. Should destructive actions have any recovery affordance? This is interesting. I kind of don't think so for the simplicity of this. Empty first, starts as a real personal app and avoids fake data. Oh, let's have a sample task. That's an easy thing. What level of live test rigor? Browser testing, screenshots. We should do that. Yeah, we have. I don't know if we have talked about MCPs yet, so maybe that is something we should do. So MCPs are going to basically give your agents tools to do things. A really important one that I would say that really you should install. You'll have to do it for every CLI because each kind of each CLI works differently. One thing I tend to do here, especially on these bigger plans, is after it creates a plan. Oh, this actually isn't that much, and then we're going to go into 1A. I'm going to do it anyways, just for an example. I actually need to create a skill for this. I don't have architect plan review. So one thing I typically like to do is ask it to review, especially for back end stuff, but which we don't have as much here. But review it as an architect. What are the things we're not considering? You know, where are the weak points of this thing? How could it be simpler? And just take those findings and incorporate them into the plan. Right now, this is pretty high level, so I actually don't know that we need this. But I'm going to tell it to add that skill on this computer so we can do that. So skills are just invoked by hitting the slash command here. But before we get started, I'm going to tell it to add a skill. Before we get started, I'd like you to add a skill called Architect Plan Review. And basically, it just enters the prompt. You're a UI, review this as a UI architect. What are we not considering? Where are the weak points in this plan? How could this be similar? Take those findings and incorporate them into an updated plan. Maybe that's something I should have actually typed. Simp. Simpler. And this is basically saving us a little bit of time when we go through each plan. We'll just invoke that skill. And it's just skills are basically kind of like saved prompts, saved files almost. Yes, we want to create this plan. I should have maybe said okay, because yes, and don't ask. One thing, just it's interesting in working with the different models. I feel like Codex GPT 5.5 tends to be much more thorough. It asks less questions and does a little bit more, and that's kind of always been the case a little bit with these tools. So for better or worse, it's just how you'll kind of get the feel for these as you use them. Okay. Short description. Let's see, skills. Okay, so we have architect plan review in there now. And let's just run it. And maybe, oh yeah, so a little bit different. Use the slash in Claude, use the $sign to call that skill in Codex. A little bit different. All right, so updated plan. Oh, and so the other thing I was going to say that we need to do is talk about the MCP before we get started. So there's really one that you must have for building web applications, and that is the Chrome DevTools MCP. And basically, it gives agent eyes into your browser. You'll see it open another Chrome window. It's already got this, but I'm just going to go through the process so you can see this. Can we find and install the Chrome DevTools MCP globally? It's going to tell me that it thinks it already has it. Maybe it'll update it, but essentially, this if you run this, you'll have to restart you'll have to restart this codex here, or Claude, or whatever CLI you're using, which means, Control C twice and go back in. You need to be aware if you have work that isn't saved, or like it won't have any context of that conversation when you go back in. But see, you can actually see it. Like, I didn't touch my computer and it opened Chrome. Chrome is being controlled by automated test software. This means that Codex can now, yeah, there's nothing to install. That's what I expected. Okay, so let's move to phase 1A. Let's start planning. What questions do you have? And we're in build mode right now. Yeah, because we're in GPT 5.5 high. Wow, it has a lot of questions for me. That was not expected. I'd imagine this is the task form should be positioned from either the bottom or the top of the list. I'm thinking, well, if it's on mobile, it's maybe useful to have it closer to the bottom. I'm thinking the add task form maybe should appear from the bottom because that's easier to get to on mobile. I don't want it to be like a traditional form. Ideally, I'd like it to be a space in the UI that the user can just type into. So there's like always a reserved empty space, maybe with muted text on it that says, add, create task. And then when they hit enter, it appears above. For now, I don't think we should show create dates. That's number 2. What should the sample task say? Let's not worry about sample tasks right now. Come up with something on your own, or we can talk about it later. Okay. I didn't keep reading. We'll use your ones. I'd like the UI to feel spacious. I want large text. I know initially we said just monospace. Let's start with that. We may move to sans serif. JetBrains mono maybe is a good option here. Should the app title be literal like to do or more branded? Let's just call it to do for now. Let's not even have a theme toggle. Let's just default to the color settings for the computer or the device that the user's on. I don't want any red accents. The only thing that I think of is we need a way to mark tasks overdue, and having some sort of colored indicator is a useful way to do that. But I'm not worried about that now. For now, let's just try and keep things monochrome until we get to overdue tasks. I've never heard of Azeret mono. I like JetBrains mono. Oh, because it knows that it's a test tool. Let's see. It's got a lot of character. I think I like JetBrains better, so we're just going to keep JetBrains as our default one now. All right, for now, let's add visual elements into the row. I'd like to keep this simple and maybe even remove these later. But for the time being, we can add checkboxes and whatnot. Yeah, the minimum size should be 390. I don't really think there are that many phones that even go to 320 now, but that should be the minimum size for this. Um, I that was a lot. Todd, that was a lot of very detailed questions that I did not necessarily expect. Okay, so it's updating the plan, and honestly, at this point, I think I'm going to tell it to go. That's interesting about the composer. Okay, let's start building. Yeah, so what it was saying is, okay, if you imagine this appearing at the bottom, when the user presses it, everything's going to have to move up because otherwise the keyboard is going to overlay it and you won't be able to see it. So we don't want it fixed. We actually don't know how that works on mobile. If I think maybe iOS does push everything up so the viewport's smaller, but maybe I'm making that up. All right, so it looks like it's done. And um, let's see, don't have a lot of working stuff here. It's kind of ugly. I think maybe I regret trying to make this a monospace thing. I think the thickness of the typeface is a little bit difficult. But we do have and I think this will be responsive. Yeah. And then whatever's happening here is kind of weird. It's trying to do a lot of things. It's okay. So I'm going to give it just some notes here about the visuals kind of before we move on. I also I'm not really feeling that we need this header. Like this is a generic to-do list app. Maybe we'll add something in the future. But I'm going to try and point out some of these things. I might break it up into pieces here. Um, First, I'm not crazy about the typography. Can we use something like Gesta or another sans serif typeface here? I think that would look better at the same size. Um, Also, I think for now, let's hide the due dates. Oh, do I not have this selected? I'm not very happy with the typeface. Let's change from JetBrains Mono to a sans serif like Gesta. I think that will look much better with the larger text. Also, we kind of have this cream background. I think I want this to be a like very high contrast, so white on black almost background. I'm gonna have it change those two things before we move on. Um, it's hard to know when to make changes because we could keep building and doing functionality. But since this is stuff it just built, it has the context of what it was doing, like setting the typography, and a lot of what we do here kind of sets the pace for what we do in the future. So a lot of times, no, not Jost, just that's a place where I suppose the speech to text fails, but caught it. Um, oh, Jakarta Sans. Now it's like I'm thinking J. Like Jakarta Sans is a great typeface. Maybe that. Actually, can we use plus Jakarta Sans? I think that will look big. Oh my gosh. Plush Jakarta Sands. I should have just typed that. Plus, it's kind of geometric-y. I think that will look pretty good with large letters. So if not, we can do something boring like enter, or just is also a pretty boring Helvetica-ish typeface. But let's see. There was this other thing where it's using, I don't know if you saw this, it is using a fade at the bottom, but also has this line. I think there's something not quite right about that. I guess on one hand, I'm trying to think like, should this really be fixed? Maybe it should, but I think it should just fill the line. I don't think we need the fade. There we go. What did it change? Did we change to dark mode? That looks better though. That looks much better. Let's respect the color scheme of the system though. So I would expect it to be light right now. Let's also remove the giant to do and the number open at the top. I don't know if it listened to that piece at the top. It did not repeat that piece back. All right, it's got the emulator going. Let's see if yeah, there now it's back to full width. How do I describe the issue that's happening here? In the footer, I see we're using a border and a gradient for create task. I think we should get rid of the gradient and the border should be completely filled. I think the other thing I want to have happen here is have the borders kind of go all the way across and have each item be like a whole selectable element. But I don't know, maybe we'll do one after this. Maybe that's the last thing we do before we continue, because this is still phase 1A. So this is kind of just a scaffold. All right, let's see. Refresh. Yep. last thing for the individual borders in the list, I'd like to make this go to the edge of the screen so that they take up the full width of the page and there's no padding on the sides. Now I think there's a max width set on desktop, so I'm curious if that changes anything. Refresh. Okay, now it doesn't go full screen here. I think that's okay. We'll settle with that for now. There's always tweaking we can do in the future, but I think this is a pretty big improvement. Okay, I think this is a pretty big improvement. Should we plan the next phase? All right, phase B is to create real tasks. Yep, input clears after successful creation, store in local storage. Let's do it at the bottom, right above the composer, and then let's get started. I think this is straightforward enough where we don't need to have an architect review at this point. So, like I said, I just had it go. All right, let's see. So hopefully if this works, yep, it created a task. I think hitting the plus sign, yep, also created a task. Nice. And if I reload, yep, it's still there. That's the functionality. So let's see what's next. So the next things we'll need to do is complete it and delete it. I want to work on this functionality a little bit here, but I think for now, just knowing that we can complete it will be a step in the right direction. Yeah, let's use the X, and let's actually place the X where we currently have the grip handles. Let's talk about the grip handles in the future. All right, so we're going to refresh, and we see X's and completing. We should probably have some sort of animation, but now we should be able to add, complete, delete, and it should remember it. So you've got the basics working in our app here. I think this is maybe a good stopping point for right now. We'll pick back up on this another time and continue working on our to-do list. Thanks for watching.